Alright guys, so let's start gathering references for our elf character. So to gather references, I will be using a tool called PureRef. PureRef is a free software you can download from their website. If you go to pureref.com, you'll be directed here. You can either click Get PureRef or the download button up here. Either one will direct you to the same download page. So once we are here, the first section will give you a choice of operating systems. Go ahead and choose your respective operating system and then proceed to the second section. Here we'll select the amount we want to donate. Now I'm not going to try to convince you or encourage you to donate to the developers, although it would be nice, but it is completely up to you whenever you want to donate. If you want to donate now or later, completely up to you. So go ahead and select custom amount. If you want to get it for free, you simply change the custom amount to 0. And when you scroll down to the third section, you'll see that the total is free. So after that, click on download and it'll start running the download for the installer. And when the installer is done downloading, go ahead and run the installer so you can get PureRef downloaded on your computer and running. So once we have PureRef downloaded, go ahead and start it up. When PureRef is running on your computer, you should see something like this. We will have a blank canvas to start with, and here we can start dropping in images to build up our reference board. So how do we start placing images in PureRef? Well, it's really simple. We can either look up images straight out of Google Images, or you can look up reference images on any platform that you prefer. I'm just going to stick with Google, and I'm going to first type in elf and lizard because that's the kind of style that I'm trying to go for, but making it a little more semi-realistic. And the character that I will be doing is an elf, and I want to do a male elf character. So I'm going to start looking for some images that I like and placing it on my PureRef board. This one's pretty cool. So the way we drop images in is simply left clicking on the image and dragging it over to PureRef. And when you let go, it'll place it on the board. So now we can continue to build up our reference board and just trying to find as much images that I like as I can on Google, and then I will later try to narrow down the references to develop my main board for inspiration. So for this elf character, I want something that, has that typical long elf hair, but something with a nice armor and with some intricate details on the armor as well. Nothing too complex, but nothing too simple. Somewhere in between, but I'll try to keep it as friendly as I can for the beginners as well. So in this stage, we pretty much just have like a generic idea of what we want. And the nice thing about gathering references is that we can use these references to direct and guide our design choices. Like this one's pretty nice. So this stage is more so just going through and just building up your reference board. And you can take however long you want. No rush, and just take your time. If you already do have a reference board all set up, you can go ahead and proceed with the next next part of this course. But if you want to gather your references along with me, that's completely fine as well. In this video, I just mainly want to show you in real time my process of collecting images and share some of my thought process with you. Some of you might find this useful, especially maybe if you are starting out and you're a beginner. But for those who are more so intermediate level, please feel free to move on to the next video. So when gathering references, it's important to keep in mind that these images belong to other artists or other companies. So when you're starting your concept for your own character, you want to try to keep it your own as you can. And when I say keep it as your own, I mean don't try to copy a specific design one-to-one, or make it obviously like based off of a specific concept. But take these concepts and just kind of incorporate the aesthetics that you like from what you are looking at, and incorporate it into your own design. Another good place to look for references is ArtStation. ArtStation, and if you are a 3D artist and you're an intermediate level or you're beginning, ArtStation is a great resource, and it's actually a really good platform to build up your portfolio. And it's actually recommended. And one of the great things about ArtStation is that ArtStation has a website building feature where you can build your own website, and that website will be connected with ArtStation. So one of the great things is that whenever you upload a new portfolio piece or new work piece on your ArtStation, that'll automatically be uploaded and visible in your website. But again, you can use any platform that you prefer when you are gathering references. This one is pretty nice. Definitely reminds me of the Lord of the Rings kind of style. And the amount of references that we are gathering, there's not really any number of the number of references that I'm trying to aim for. I'm just trying to pick out as much images until I feel comfortable or I feel like I have enough to start with. Right now, I'm feeling like I could get a little more. But for something like this, if you already kind of know what you're trying to achieve, then this amount of references is completely fine as well. Just remember to try to make these references your own, or these designs your own, whenever you are doing your concept piece. So I think I have a good amount of references for the face. So I'm going to try to focus more on the armor. I mean, there are some armors here, but I want to pick out a little more. I want to see if I can find a little more unique designs that I can draw some inspiration from. Sometimes finding references can be a little time consuming. I tend to get a little nitpicky, but please don't feel like you have to find those right images. In this stage, you're just picking out whatever image that you see and you like. These are some really good designs right here. This one is done by Neregus by Tautas. Hopefully I'm not butchering that. Probably am. But something like this is really complex, so we're gonna avoid that. This is actually pretty complex as well. But I could also just keep it for reference and inspiration. But my main goal for the design is to try to have it more in between in terms of design complexity. I think this is starting to stray away from the elf designs, really. So I'm gonna move on and see if I can find something else. This is pretty cool right here. That is the same image. All right, I think I'm gonna gather a few more references, and then we can go over some of the basic functions that you can do in PureRef. That is the same image as the last one I dropped in. This one looks more of like a sorcerer type. We also want to think about the like what kind of elf we want our character to be. So like what kind of weapons do we think that we want to have weapons with this elf character, or is it gonna be a sorcerer? So we can look up some weapon concepts, so we can add that to our collection here, and then I think we can call that good. And again, this isn't really final or anything. I'm always finding myself coming back and throughout the process of development and looking for more references. And actually, one of the most important things when we're looking for references, especially when we're working on a humanoid character, we want to have some anatomy references as well. Now, I am not sure how what level you are in terms of anatomy, but it's always good to have some of that on the side as well. We're going to gather some references for weapons, and I am going with a bow and arrow for our elf, and then I will gather some anatomy references, and then we will jump over to PureRef. And again, remember, these references are just going to be for inspiration, to help us kind of direct how we want to design our own concept. So nothing should be one-to-one or exact to a specific image. Unless you're doing a tribute, like a fan art of something, then it's fine. But if you're going to create, if you're going to try to create an original, quote unquote, original piece, you got to make sure that it's your own design. All right, I think that's enough there. I like these. I like these bows. And for the arrow, the arrow isn't something that I necessarily need a concept for or a reference for. But it would be nice to have at least something to at least know in terms of how an arrow is structured or put together. But I mean, it's pretty it's pretty general knowledge on how an arrow should look like. But if you are not familiar with, if you are planning to build something and you're not familiar with how that certain thing is built or how it functions, always gather references for it. I mean, even if you are familiar with how a certain thing is built, sometimes gathering references can also make you realize that there's some unique designs out there. Like this one, I liked this little detail back here. And compared to this one, these are pretty flat. Like there's nothing really interesting going on in the back right here. And versus this one where it has these little loops going around. Alright, so I'm going to start looking for some anatomy references. So what we want for anatomy references is we want something that gives us a general information on where specific landmarks are in terms of muscle anatomy. And just something that can help you indicate where specific muscles are and how they are structured. So for this character, we're going to be doing more of a fantasy character, and the reason why I picked a fantasy character is because with fantasy characters or humanoids, we can kind of cheat the anatomy because they are fantasy. We can kind of cheat the anatomy a little bit and kind of exaggerate certain areas. So it doesn't have to be 100% accurate in terms of proportion. And it doesn't have to be 100% accurate to real world anatomical structures. And it's good to know the names of some of these. This image is a little blurry, but it's good to get familiar with the names of some of the muscle groups or specific muscles. Because once you start practicing your anatomy and you get familiar with the names and you continue to practice it, it'll become like a mental library that you can just, it'll just come to you like second nature when you're sculpting out an anatomy piece or your base model for a humanoid character. All right, I'm gonna call this reference board good. So just to go over some of the basic functions we can do in PureRef is, so we're pretty limited to the editing capabilities for these images. Like we can't really do custom edits to these images. We're limited to rotating, scaling, and just moving. But we can also group some of these, and then we can also create some notes. So if we press Control N, we'll create a little note text here, and you can say whatever, whatever the specific collection is, just to try to organize things further for yourself. But like I said, this isn't really, I don't really consider the reference collection phase as like final. Whenever you're collecting references, it's more so going to happen throughout the process. But collecting references in the beginning just gives us a kickstart on the design that we're trying to go for, so that we can create our own concept inspired by whatever designs we have collected here. All right, so we're going to start. Actually, let me mention one more thing. So another thing you can do in PureRef is you can align things. So if you hold down Control and on your directional keys, your left, right, up, and down, you can align your images on whichever direction you press. So if I select these and I hold Control and press the left key, it'll move everything and align it to the left. If I press up, it'll align everything up, and then so on and so forth. So that's a neat little thing you can do when you're organizing your references in PureRef. All right, so that's it for this one. In the next video, we are gonna dive into our mini collection of references here, and we're gonna start kind of thinking about the design that we want to consider as our inspiration designs. All right, I'll see you then, guys.